Yeah, that's what I need. This is your poverty scholar, your podcast from a poverty scholar. That's your houseless mama, your houseless daughter. All the people you don't want to be, never want to be, look away from me. What you gonna do? Arrest me? We're in your city. Yeah, today I'm talking to you from inside the stolen colonizer borders about manifesting a different form of reparations. What I'm calling out is an emergency call for agricultural reparations and farm sanctuaries to smash these colonizer borders, specifically using the unseen white privilege and class privilege that 525 years of stolen land and hoarded resources have created to keep the same people rich and the same people poor. But we can do something, family, because we all conscious, even those among you who happen to have access to those stolen and hoarded wealth. So this podcast goes out to you and to all the other folks who might be able to access you. First of all, how many kinds of whiteness is there? That's my first question. Today's poverty scholarship lesson. There's the whiteness that we see when we're driving in a car and we don't have to look behind us because we're worried that the police is going to profile and kill and arrest and test us. And then there's the unseen white privilege that happens in AKKdemia, credit checks, banksters and gangsters, backroom deals and politricksters, lobbyists and stolen land ownership. This kind of white privilege is arguably more powerful than the obvious kind because it has to do with class supremacy. It has to do with wealth and wealth hoarding and land hoarding and stolen land access and keeping it in the family and all the ways in which wealth and privilege is transferred from one generation to the next. So there's the kind that when me and Mama were sleeping on the street and we raised up enough dollars from our hustle to approach a landlord, and my poor mama, a single mama, a mixed race woman of color, went in and told them that we had good credit and they were going to pay the rent, and they turned her down flat, versus putting me in a Kmart suit, walking in with my light skin and my blue eyes and telling the landlord that I was 25 years old and made $65,000 a year. And they believed me because racism is alive and well in Americlan. Fast forward to 2010, did the same thing when we launched Mama House in La Misión, using my race and class privilege to lie to landlords about my broken ghetto self who hadn't have a pot to piss in and barely had money left in the bank account. So all that to say, there's those kinds of white privilege, and then there's the unseen white privilege. And today, again, I'm calling out an emergency call to the unseen paper and policy privileged among you to stand up for your indigenous raza, your brothers and sisters who cross these empire borders all over Mother Earth and who need your act of solidarity, who need your act of paper privilege to smash these colonizer borders, oftentimes created by your ancestors. So let me take you through a little process here. What I mean by the unseen privileges, and they're complicated, of course, and oftentimes that's the reason they stay unseen, is the one that gives you connections to things. When us Homefulness crew, Homefulness, a poor people's self-determined land liberation movement launched by poor folks, displaced, gentrified, and barely holding on, decided that we wanted to do this differently. We wanted to actually get the colonizer permit so they couldn't take it away from us. They couldn't steal back the already stolen land behind a tax bill and a piece of so-called paper claiming we owned it. We walked together with our young folks who we had taught about community reparations and redistribution, and realized that the only way we could get inside of those halls is with their access. So one day, for instance, we walk into the city of Oakland trying to get our place in the developer line filled with the agents from Lennar and John Stewart and all the other developers who continue to rape and pillage Mother Earth. And we were barely there and we found out that we hit the end of the fiscal year. We were about to leave because it was going to cost another $8,000 if the next year of the colonizer Gregorian calendar flipped, and we didn't have that money. But lo and behold, the unseen privilege, the people in the back, the people who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody's uncle, who went to Stanford together and happened to just somehow be back there, made a phone call. And so then all of us ghetto scholars, holding on by a thread, terrorized that we would be thrown back out into Never Never Land, managed to get in line because of a phone call, because of somebody with that form of race and class privilege from the ruling class aristocracy making a phone call. That's just one example. There's so many more. And this is what we call community reparations and what we teach at People School, the poor people-led education institution for the whole nation, which any of y'all are welcome to come to. The next one is going to be in Black August. But I want to put out a specific call to the paper privileged among you to start what I'm calling the agricultural reparations fund. And this is specifically rooted in the agricultural industry for the conscious people who engage in the farming industry, who work really hard to create an organic GMO-free product, who try to conserve water and compost their earth and use safe or non-toxic fertilizer, who are trying to, as your marketing campaigns state, stand up for Mama Earth and hopefully even her Earth peoples. I'm asking you all to create a farm-based coalition to stand up for the migrante, indigenous workers who pick your product and without whom you would not have accumulated this privilege, this access, this stolen land, and this hoarded wealth. And so that you could not have made a working, thriving farm system. It is for this reason I'm calling out to the farm peoples, the agribusiness owners, the lobbyists, and even the community gardeners to create a different coalition, to stand up to the trumpet clown, to the Po Ice with your multiple paper privileges, and say hell no to the politricksters and the Po Ice, to create multiple sanctuary farms across Khalifa Aslan, to all those whining industries, to make your wine farms a sanctuary farm, to deem your private property, which is privileged more than anything else in American because of the stolen fathers, the stealing fathers' documents, and say no, Po Ice and Homeland Insecurity. You can't come onto this land and steal, abuse, displace, and remove more humans, aka deportation. It's a similar case I make for the tech reparations fund, which I put out to conscious members of the tech industry last month in the Stolen Land Hoarded Resources tour through Silicon Valley, to realize the direct impact of your industry on the lives and homes of working class and poor people of color in the Bay Area, to 100-year-old Black elder Irish Canada, and the abuse of unlawful evictions on elders and families. So anyway, I'm putting this out as an emergency call for the beginning and the launching of Agricultural Reparations Fund and farm sanctuaries. If you want our help, this is what we do. You can hit me up at dntiny@gmail.com. For anybody listening to this podcast from a poverty scholar, please consider putting this out to any of the folks that you know who might know someone who knows someone who knows someone, because that's how it happens, family. And for those of you who are fellow poverty scholars, to remember that together we can work to lift ourselves up in self-determinations, and that we don't have to continue to move with the same shame around the oppression of poverty, racism, ableism, gender oppression, and all the other ways that we are shamed for being who we are. And finally, to all of us, Earth peoples, to love Mother Earth and to realize that these kinds of moves of community reparations and radical redistribution are not just good for one of us, but all of us. And in the end, it's all of us that need these kinds of reparation. That's all for this podcast from a poverty scholar. Please share, tweet, and redistribute, because the digital streets are another form of a street industry. Ashe Aho Omateo.